We live in a time where freedom seems limitless, where opportunities appear endless and personal growth is seen as a moral duty. The modern narrative tells us that we are in control, that our lives are shaped solely by our choices, and that success is simply a matter of effort and persistence. But philosopher Byung-Chul Han, in his book The Burnout Society, reveals that this perceived freedom is not true liberation, it's a trap. In earlier times, society operated under disciplinary systems. Authority was clear, rules were enforced from the outside, and conformity was achieved through punishment or exclusion. Today, we believe we have moved past such oppression. We think we are freer than ever before. But Han argues that modernity didn't erase oppression, it just internalized it. We have become our own taskmasters, constantly demanding more from ourselves in the name of self-improvement and personal achievement. This is the core of the illusion. We are conditioned to see self-exploitation as empowerment. The ideology of performance glorifies productivity, resilience, and continuous growth. It tells us that rest is weakness, that relaxation is laziness, and that any pause in our relentless pursuit of success is a failure. The pressure doesn't come from a boss or an institution, it comes from within. We are not working harder because someone is forcing us to. We are doing it because we believe it's the path to fulfillment. Social media reinforces this belief with constant reminders to hustle harder, optimize routines, and never settle. Our lives become projects to be managed, optimized, and showcased, proof that we are constantly evolving. Yet despite all this effort, many of us feel increasingly exhausted, depleted, and disconnected. Han points out that this relentless pursuit of self-betterment blurs the line between choice and coercion. We believe we are free because we choose our goals, but the truth is that these choices are deeply influenced by a culture that glorifies hyper-productivity. We are constantly told that we can achieve anything if we just push harder, work smarter, and never give up. But this mindset doesn't lead to freedom, it leads to burnout. It's no coincidence that stress, anxiety, and depression are at an all-time high. The very culture that promises us limitless potential is the same one that drains our mental and physical resources. The freedom to achieve has become an obligation to constantly perform. We are not just workers anymore, we are entrepreneurs of our own lives, always investing, always pushing, always striving. The real danger is that we don't recognize this as exploitation because it feels voluntary. We take pride in our productivity, measure our worth by our accomplishments, and feel guilty when we're not pushing ourselves to the limit. This is how the achievement society sustains itself, not through direct oppression, but through a seductive promise of personal fulfillment. What's truly at stake here is our sense of identity. We become so entwined with our roles and achievements that any setback feels like a personal failure. We forget how to rest without feeling unproductive, how to be present without multitasking, how to exist without constantly proving our value. Byung-Chul Han warns that the ultimate consequence of this mindset is burnout, a collapse not just of the body, but of the spirit. The achievement society doesn't make us stronger, it makes us more fragile, more anxious, and more prone to self-destruction. To reclaim our freedom, we must question the very foundation of this relentless pursuit. We must learn to value being as much as doing, rest as much as action. Real freedom isn't about maximizing every moment, it's about having the space to choose when to act and when to pause, without guilt, without pressure, without the need to constantly prove ourselves. It's about reclaiming our right to exist without constantly producing. And until we break free from this illusion, we will remain prisoners, not of external forces, but of our own internalized expectations. The way society controls us has changed dramatically over the centuries. In the past, people were kept in line by external discipline, strict rules, rigid hierarchies, and punishment for disobedience. Authority was clear and oppressive, and individuals knew when they were being controlled. But in modern times, this dynamic has shifted. Byung-Chul Han describes this transition as a move from a disciplinary society to an achievement society. At first glance, this shift might seem like progress. After all, nobody likes to feel coerced or oppressed. Today, the idea of being an active, self-driven individual sounds far more appealing than being a passive follower. We're told that we are in charge of our own success, that we have the freedom to pursue our goals, our passions, our dreams. But here's where Han's insight challenges this optimism. The achievement society doesn't free us from control, it just makes us complicit in our own exploitation. In the disciplinary society, individuals were subject to external control. Factories, schools, prisons. These institutions dictated behavior through rigid schedules and strict supervision. You knew when you were being ordered around. You could identify your oppressor. But in the achievement society, we are no longer forced to work. We choose to, or at least that's what we think. The control has shifted from external enforcement to internal motivation. We push ourselves harder than any boss ever could, driven by a deep-rooted belief that success is the result of relentless self-improvement. This transformation from discipline to achievement might look like freedom, but it's far from it. Instead of being driven by fear of punishment, we are now driven by a desire to excel, to outperform, to constantly break our own records. We become entrepreneurs of ourselves, measuring, monitoring, and optimizing our lives as if we were products in a marketplace. And what's most cunning about this transformation is that the pressure feels self-imposed. We think we are choosing to hustle, choosing to sacrifice sleep, choosing to work overtime. But this so-called choice is deeply conditioned by the ideology of performance that permeates modern culture. Think about how this plays out in everyday life. You wake up early not because someone forces you, but because you feel guilty sleeping in. You stay late at work not because your boss demands it, but because you fear falling behind. You sign up for productivity apps, track your steps, monitor your sleep patterns, not because you're ordered to, but because you believe that optimization is the path to a better you. The achievement society makes you believe that you are in control, but in reality, you are just as trapped as before, if not more so. One of the most striking aspects of this shift is how the internalization of pressure creates a sense of personal failure. In a disciplinary society, failure was often attributed to external factors, a harsh supervisor, an unfair rule. But in an achievement society, failure becomes deeply personal. If you don't succeed, it's because you didn't try hard enough, didn't plan well enough, didn't push yourself to the limit. It's not the system's fault, it's yours. This internalization of responsibility makes people more vulnerable to self-blame and burnout as they continuously strive to meet impossible standards. The most tragic part of this transformation is that it disguises itself as empowerment. We tell ourselves that we are choosing to work harder, to push past our limits. We believe we are in control because we set our own goals and chase our own dreams. But Han warns us that this mentality is inherently exploitative. The more we internalize the ideology of achievement, the more we lose touch with our own needs, desires, and limits. We become cogs in a machine that we ourselves operate, convinced that every extra hour, every ounce of effort, is proof of our dedication and commitment. But at what cost? The line between work and life blurs to the point where they are indistinguishable. Leisure becomes another opportunity to optimize. Even relaxation is framed as a way to recharge for more productivity later. We don't take breaks to rest. We take breaks to become more efficient when we return to work. In this relentless cycle, our well-being becomes secondary, sacrificed at the altar of perpetual achievement. To break free from this pattern, we must first recognize that not all forms of self-discipline are genuinely self-driven. We must learn to distinguish between ambition that nourishes us and ambition that drains us. The goal is not to abandon personal growth, but to redefine it, shifting from a mindset of relentless optimization to one that values balance, rest, and genuine fulfillment. It's crucial to reclaim our sense of purpose from the grip of hyper-productivity. We need to understand that rest is not a weakness, that slowing down is not a failure, and that our worth is not solely determined by our output. To truly break free from the achievement society, we must redefine what it means to live a successful life. It's not just about reaching new heights, it's about finding stability, peace, and the courage to resist the relentless push to always be more. We live in a culture that glorifies positivity. Everywhere we look, We're encouraged to adopt a can-do attitude, to see setbacks as opportunities, and to remain optimistic no matter the circumstances. This mindset is celebrated as the key to success and personal growth. Yet, philosopher Byung-Chul Han warns that this relentless push for positivity is not just misguided, it's dangerous. At the heart of Han's argument is the idea that positivity, when taken to the extreme, becomes tyrannical. It demands constant enthusiasm and unwavering determination, even when reality is harsh, exhausting, or downright demoralizing. The problem is not positivity itself. Hope and resilience are crucial for navigating life's challenges. The real issue lies in the way modern culture weaponizes positivity, turning it into an unspoken rule that we must always feel motivated, grateful, and driven, no matter how overwhelmed we actually are. Think about how often we encounter phrases like, "Failure is not an option," or "You can do anything if you just believe in yourself." On the surface, these messages seem empowering. They encourage us to push past obstacles and never give up. But they also set a trap, one where the burden of overcoming challenges falls entirely on the individual. If you're not succeeding, it's not because the system is flawed or because the demands are unreasonable. It's because you lack the right mindset. This is where positivity becomes oppressive. It silences the reality of struggle, dismisses valid feelings of exhaustion, and frames burnout as a personal failing rather than a systemic problem. In this way, positivity becomes not a tool for motivation, but a mechanism for self-blame. If you're tired, it's because you're not trying hard enough. If you're stressed, it's because you're not managing your mindset properly. The pursuit of a positive outlook becomes another item on the never-ending to-do list of self-improvement. Han's critique dives even deeper. The tyranny of positivity actually isolates us. When everyone around you is projecting success and optimism, admitting struggle feels like failure. Social media, filled with curated highlights of achievement and happiness, exacerbates this effect. You end up feeling alone in your exhaustion because it seems like everyone else is thriving. The truth, however, is that many people are trapped in the same cycle, projecting positivity while privately unraveling. The problem intensifies when positivity is used to mask systemic issues. In workplaces, employees are encouraged to stay upbeat and embrace challenges even when they're overworked and underappreciated. Corporate culture often weaponizes positivity to suppress dissent. Instead of acknowledging structural flaws, companies might focus on boosting morale through motivational speeches or team-building exercises, as if the problem lies with the individual's attitude rather than the organization's unrealistic demands. This phenomenon is not limited to the professional world. In personal development spheres, coaches and influencers often preach the gospel of relentless positivity. The message is clear. If you're not achieving your dreams, you just need to believe harder, work harder, and push through the pain. The dark side of this rhetoric is that it leaves no room for vulnerability or failure. It creates a mindset where expressing fatigue or disillusionment feels like betrayal, not just of oneself but of the cultural norm that equates positivity with virtue. But what if real growth requires the courage to admit when you're overwhelmed? What if the path to resilience involves acknowledging burnout rather than denying it? Han argues that embracing our limitations, rather than pretending they don't exist, is a more sustainable way to navigate life's challenges. Positivity, when forced, becomes toxic because it denies the complexity of human experience. Real life is messy, unpredictable, and sometimes disheartening. Pretending otherwise only deepens our sense of isolation and inadequacy. There's also a philosophical irony in the modern obsession with positivity. By denying negative emotions and pushing ourselves to maintain an upbeat mindset at all costs, we actually become more susceptible to breakdowns. When stress, frustration, or sadness are constantly repressed in favor of forced optimism, they don't just disappear, they accumulate. Eventually, the facade cracks, and what emerges is not a manageable level of discomfort, but a full-blown crisis of identity and purpose. This is why Han calls for a more nuanced approach to resilience, one that doesn't involve repressing pain, but rather recognizing it as an integral part of the human experience. Instead of seeing setbacks as failures, we should view them as opportunities to pause, reflect, and recalibrate. True resilience is not about bouncing back instantly with a smile. It's about allowing ourselves the time and space to process, to mourn, to struggle. Only then can recovery be authentic rather than performative. By embracing our vulnerability, we reject the oppressive demand to be perpetually positive. We make space for genuine emotions, both good and bad, without feeling guilty for not constantly radiating optimism. This approach fosters a more honest relationship with ourselves and those around us. It breaks the cycle of superficial motivation and allows for deeper, more sustainable personal growth. Ultimately, Han's critique of positivity is not an attack on hope or perseverance. It's a call to recognize the pressure that relentless positivity places on our mental health. By acknowledging that struggle is a natural part of life, we free ourselves from the illusion that we must always be thriving. Real strength lies not in suppressing our humanity, but in embracing it, messiness and all. If we continue to glorify unyielding positivity, we risk alienating ourselves from our own feelings. Instead, we should cultivate a mindset that honors both our triumphs and our challenges, giving equal weight to success and struggle. By doing so, we reclaim our right to be human, not perfect, not endlessly resilient, but real. Burnout is no longer just a personal struggle. It has become a defining feature of modern life. We often talk about it as if it's just a matter of being overwhelmed or stressed, but Byung-Chul Han argues that burnout is a deeper symptom of a society obsessed with achievement. In the Burnout Society, he challenges the idea that burnout is just an individual problem. It's a collective crisis born from the relentless pursuit of self-optimization. In the past, exhaustion was physical, a result of long hours of labor or harsh working conditions. Today, burnout is mental and emotional, rooted in the constant pressure to perform, achieve, and improve. It's not just about being tired, it's about feeling empty, as if the drive that once fueled your ambitions has burned out completely. This kind of exhaustion doesn't just affect your energy levels, it attacks your sense of purpose and identity. We are taught to view burnout as a personal failure, as if it's our fault for not managing stress better or not working efficiently enough. But Han points out that burnout is a logical outcome in a society that constantly demands more. We push ourselves to meet expectations that are not just high, but endlessly escalating. The problem is not our lack of resilience, but a culture that glorifies hyper-productivity. Burnout isn't just about working long hours. It's about internalizing the idea that we must always be moving forward, always be improving. Even our leisure time becomes a space for optimization. Resting is seen as a way to recharge, not as an end in itself. In this mindset, burnout is not an anomaly, it's an inevitability. The mental health consequences are profound. Anxiety and depression become commonplace as we struggle to live up to impossible standards. We feel guilty when we rest and ashamed when we can't keep up. The result is a fractured sense of self, where our identity becomes inseparable from our productivity. If we're not constantly achieving, we feel worthless. One of the cruelest aspects of burnout is the isolation it creates. In a world that demands positivity and perseverance, admitting you're burned out feels like admitting weakness. Social media compounds this problem by presenting curated images of success and happiness. We see others thriving while we struggle, leading to a sense of inadequacy and solitude. The reality, however, is that many are trapped in the same cycle, projecting success while privately battling exhaustion. Han's critique challenges us to rethink how we define success and well-being. The problem isn't just how much we work, it's how we've come to see ourselves as projects to be managed and improved. We are constantly measuring our worth through performance metrics, productivity, efficiency, output. This mindset makes it almost impossible to feel at peace because we're always chasing the next goal, the next improvement. To break this cycle, we must change how we view productivity. Rest should not be something we feel guilty about. Instead, it should be a fundamental part of life, valued not just for its utility, but for its necessity. Mental health is not a luxury that comes after success. It's a foundation that allows us to live sustainably. Real change begins when we stop blaming ourselves for being exhausted and start questioning the culture that normalizes burnout. If we continue to equate our worth with our output, we will never escape this cycle. The challenge is not just to survive burnout, but to dismantle the belief that relentless achievement is the ultimate goal. In a society that glorifies endless progress, choosing to rest becomes an act of resistance. It's a way of reclaiming our humanity in a world that treats us like machines. Instead of constantly pushing ourselves to the limit, we need to recognize the value of stillness, reflection, and genuine rest. Only then can we move from mere survival to truly living. We live in an era of constant connectivity. Our phones buzz with notifications, emails pile up, and social media pulls us into endless scrolling. While technology promises to make our lives easier, philosopher Byung-Chul Han warns that this digital overload is quietly eroding our mental well-being. In the Burnout Society, Han argues that our hyperconnectivity has shifted our attention from deep, focused thought to fragmented, shallow engagement. We are no longer capable of uninterrupted concentration because our minds are constantly pulled in multiple directions. This scattered attention doesn't just make us less productive, it leaves us mentally exhausted. One of the core problems is how technology exploits our need for stimulation. Social media, in particular, is designed to keep us engaged. Likes, comments, and notifications create a feedback loop that keeps us coming back for more. The result is a state of perpetual partial attention, where we're never fully immersed in any single activity. This constant mental juggling leads to stress and a sense of emptiness, as our brains never get a chance to rest. Digital overload also affects our ability to be present. Even when we're not actively using our devices, the anticipation of the next notification keeps us on edge. We may think we're multitasking, but in reality, we're rapidly switching between tasks, reducing our cognitive efficiency and increasing fatigue. This persistent state of alertness not only drains our energy, but also prevents us from fully engaging with the world around us. The irony is that while we are more connected digitally, we are increasingly isolated in real life. Social media interactions often replace face-to-face connections, leading to shallow relationships and a feeling of loneliness. Instead of fostering real community, our digital interactions often leave us feeling more disconnected than before. Han challenges us to rethink our relationship with technology. Rather than abandoning digital tools entirely, he suggests practicing digital mindfulness, being intentional about how and when we engage. This means setting boundaries, like turning off non-essential notifications or dedicating specific times for social media use. It's not about rejecting technology, but using it in a way that preserves our mental space. The key is to reclaim silence and solitude. Instead of filling every quiet moment with screen time, we need to allow ourselves to disconnect and reflect. This intentional pause helps us regain mental clarity and reduces the anxiety driven by constant connectivity. In the end, resisting digital overload is about prioritizing presence over distraction. It's about choosing when to be online and, more importantly, when to be offline. By practicing intentional disconnection, we protect our ability to think deeply and engage fully with our lives. By now, it's clear that burnout is not just a personal issue, it's a societal one. The most radical act of resistance in a burnout society is to slow down, to choose quality over quantity, presence over performance. It's about valuing life beyond achievements and embracing a more human pace. This doesn't mean giving up on ambition, but rather redefining it in a way that sustains rather than drains us. Breaking this cycle is not just an individual journey, it's a collective effort. We need to support each other in rejecting toxic productivity and normalizing rest. We must build communities where vulnerability is accepted and mental health is prioritized over constant output. Only by challenging the cultural narrative that equates worth with productivity can we truly reclaim our lives from burnout. If you also feel the pressure of constant achievement, share your thoughts in the comments below. How do you cope with burnout in your own life? Let's start a conversation. Your perspective matters. If you found value in this exploration of Byung-Chul Han's ideas, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more thought-provoking content. Your support helps us continue creating videos that challenge and inspire. And if you'd like to support our work more directly, consider making a donation through Ko-fi. Just scan the QR code on the screen. It's a small way to help us keep bringing you content that challenges conventional thinking. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes the most revolutionary act is simply choosing to rest.